The sirens wailed through the quiet suburban neighborhood, their haunting cry echoing down the empty streets. Asterisk, asterisk, in a matter of seconds, the peace of this once serene town would be shattered forever. Little did anyone know that this night would mark the beginning of humanity's most dangerous war. Lena Adams stood by the window, her arms wrapped around her young son, Ethan, as they gazed out into the dark sky. It was supposed to be a normal evening. They'd spent the day at the park, laughing under the bright sun, and now, with dinner on the table, they were ready to enjoy a quiet night in. But something was off tonight. Her instincts told her something wasn't right, the sudden unease gnawing at her. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Ethan tugged on her sleeve, pointing to the sky. "Mom, what's that?" His voice, a mix of excitement and fear, cut through the stillness. Lena followed his gaze. At first, she thought it was a shooting star, a bright streak in the night sky. But the light was growing, getting larger, and descending fast. Her heart raced as she recognized the shape. It was too big to be a satellite or meteor, too controlled to be anything natural. A low, metallic hum vibrated through the air. The sky crackled with energy, and before she could react, the object plunged downward, sending a shockwave of air that rattled the windows. The ground trembled beneath them, and the night lit up with an eerie glow. Then it happened. The ship, no, the craft, landed in the middle of the street with a deafening roar. Its cold, dark silhouette towered over their home, and its massive bulk consumed the space before Lena had time to think. A door on the side of the craft slid open, revealing a group of beings unlike anything Lena had ever seen. Their skin was a deep shade of gray, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light, and their posture regal, as if they were ancient warriors returning to claim their prize. Lena's breath caught in her throat as her body froze in terror. She had heard the stories, whispers of alien races that roamed the stars, crossing the vast reaches of space. But nothing prepared her for this. "Lena, take Ethan inside," her husband, Derek, hissed, pulling her back from the window. He was already reaching for the gun they kept in the drawer, but Lena could see the hopelessness in his eyes. The creatures were far too powerful for anything Earth had at its disposal. But it was too late. One of the aliens, moving with unnatural speed, advanced toward the house. Their long, clawed hands reached out as if searching for something. Then it spoke, its voice a low, rumbling growl that seemed to vibrate the very air around them. "We have come for the child." Lena's heart stopped. Ethan, the small boy, standing frozen next to her, suddenly let out a high-pitched scream. The alien's gaze locked onto him, and in an instant, it was as though the world had shifted. A beam of energy erupted from the craft, surrounding Ethan in a blue, shimmering light. His terrified scream echoed as his body was lifted from the ground, hovering in the air, his feet kicking helplessly as the force dragged him toward the waiting vessel. "No!" Lena screamed, her voice raw with panic as she lunged forward. But Derek held her back, the strength of the alien beam too powerful for any human to overcome. The alien turned to face her, its eyes glowing brighter, almost in amusement. It seemed to study her for a moment before it spoke again, this time in a voice that held a chilling promise. "This child will lead us to what we seek. You will never see him again." With that, the beam intensified, and Lena's worst nightmare became a horrific reality. The last thing she saw before her vision blurred was Ethan's wide, frightened eyes, looking back at her as the alien ship lifted into the sky, disappearing into the night. Back in the small, dimly lit command center of Earth's military headquarters, officials scrambled to understand the magnitude of the situation. Earth had been invaded, not by another human empire, not by a race seeking resources, but by something far more terrifying, an alien species that had come for one child. A chilling silence fell over the room as the magnitude of the message hit every individual like a cold wave. They had underestimated the galactic forces beyond their comprehension. This was no longer just a kidnapping. It was an invasion of the highest order. One thing was certain: Earth would never be the same again. And the battle to reclaim what was taken had just begun. We don't negotiate with kidnappers. We don't beg for mercy. We go in, we take what's ours, and we send a message. Fleet Commander Samantha Hayes' voice cut through the tense silence in the briefing room. The hollow hum of the holographic projector filled the space, casting an eerie glow on the faces of the military leaders gathered before her. There was no time for second-guessing, no room for hesitation. The world had been shaken to its core. A human child had been taken by an alien force, and that could not be allowed to stand. The room was filled with hushed murmurs, each officer aware of the gravity of the situation. Samantha stood tall at the head of the room, her eyes scanning the faces of the commanders, her mind racing with the implications of the mission that loomed ahead. "We know who we're dealing with," Samantha continued, her tone unwavering. "The Zenari, a species known for their ruthless nature and advanced technology. They think they can bully us, that they can abduct our people without consequence. But they're wrong." The images of the alien ship, dark and massive, flashed across the screen. Its design was unlike anything Earth had ever seen, sleek, powerful, and armed with weapons capable of annihilating entire fleets. The Zenari were not just invaders, they were conquerors, and they had come to claim what they believed was theirs. "We have one shot at this," Samantha said, her voice hardening. "There's no room for error. If we fail, it's not just the child we lose, it's everything we stand for. This is about more than just a rescue mission. It's about sending a clear message to every species out there who thinks they can take what they want from us." The room went silent, the weight of her words sinking in. The threat was real. The child, Ethan, was not just a victim. He was a symbol. If Earth could not protect its own, if humanity couldn't rally to save its own people, then it would send a message of weakness to the galaxy. A message no one would take lightly. Samantha's mind flicked back to the scene that had unfolded just days ago, the chilling moment when the Zenari ship descended into her own peaceful hometown. She had been miles away when the abduction occurred, but she felt as though it had happened right in front of her. She'd watched the footage over and over again, her stomach twisting each time the alien craft lifted into the sky, taking the child with it. Ethan's wide, terrified eyes had haunted her dreams, and though she had never met the boy, she knew one thing. His life, his safety, was now a matter of galactic importance. The Zenari had made their move, but Earth wasn't about to let them get away with it. In the depths of the command center, the preparations for the assault were already underway. Officers and engineers worked around the clock, refining battle strategies, upgrading weapon systems, and ensuring that every ship in Earth's fleet was ready for battle. Samantha moved through the room, giving directives with a calm, practiced efficiency. But inside, the pressure was mounting. She paused for a moment before one of the tactical screens. A map of the galaxy flickered to life in front of her, pinpointing the Zenari's stronghold deep within uncharted space. The journey would take days, time Earth did not have. Every second that passed was another second that the aliens had to strengthen their grip on the child. Every moment was one more in which Earth's enemies would grow bolder. Samantha's thoughts turned to Derek, the child's father. He had been in contact with the military ever since the abduction. His face was one of deep sorrow, but also one of resolve. He had no illusions about what needed to be done. They had one objective: get Ethan back. Nothing else mattered. "We'll be ready, Commander," one of the officers said, breaking her reverie. She nodded. "Make sure every ship is equipped with anti-shield weapons. We'll need to punch through their outer defenses if we have any chance of success." At the heart of the operation were the newly designed warships, sleek, powerful vessels capable of both defensive and offensive capabilities that far surpassed anything Earth had previously deployed. The battle was expected to be brutal, and the Zenari would not give up the child without a fight. But Earth had one advantage that the Zenari didn't account for: the sheer tenacity of the human spirit. As the fleet commanders strategized, Earth's military engineers worked tirelessly to modify the warships for the impending assault. The goal was simple: eliminate the Zenari defenses, infiltrate their stronghold, and retrieve Ethan. But the unknowns were vast. The Zenari were notorious for their cunning, and their stronghold was designed to resist every conceivable form of attack. Samantha walked to the communication hub, where the briefing was being relayed to the soldiers preparing for the strike. Her voice echoed through the speakers as she addressed the troops. "You are the best humanity has to offer. We've trained for this moment. We've prepared for the worst. And now we're going to take that child back. I don't need to tell you what's at stake, but I will remind you, we fight for our people. We fight for humanity. And we fight for a future where no one is safe from the consequences of threatening us." The room erupted into applause. The soldiers were ready. And for the first time since the kidnapping, Samantha felt the weight of her mission lighten, just a little. There was resolve in the room, determination in every voice. Earth's fleet was not just going to fight, they were going to win. As the briefing ended, Samantha turned her attention back to the holographic map. The Zanari stronghold loomed ahead, a dark fortress in the void. The time for preparation was over. Now, all that was left was to launch the assault. In a few hours, Earth's fleet would depart, carrying with it not only the hopes of a planet, but also the promise that humanity would never kneel before any invader. Samantha Hayes knew the mission would be one of the most dangerous the fleet had ever undertaken. But it was also clear that failure was not an option. The war for the future of Earth was about to begin, and Earth would strike first. "This is it," Commander Samantha Hayes muttered, her eyes fixed on the tactical display as the first wave of ships enter hyperspace. There's no turning back now. The familiar hum of the fleet's engines vibrated through the walls of the command bridge as Earth's warships surged into the void, each vessel cutting through space with terrifying precision. The fleet was heading straight for the heart of the Zanari stronghold, a dark, remote planet deep within enemy territory. But every inch of space between Earth and that distant world only heightened the danger. Samantha's mind raced as she surveyed the tactical map on her screen. The fleet's journey had taken them days into uncharted space, and they were now in the final stretch. Ahead lay a heavily fortified stronghold, its outer defenses cloaked in layers of energy shields and lethal weaponry. The Zanari were known for their military prowess, and Samantha knew that failure was not an option. They had only one shot to rescue the child, and they had to take it. The room on the command bridge was silent except for the soft beeping of monitors and the occasional murmur of the crew. The tension was thick, each officer fully aware that the stakes were higher than ever before. They were about to confront an alien empire that had no mercy, and the clock was ticking. Every second that passed meant another moment the Zanari could strengthen their grip on the child, another moment to prepare for the attack. "Fleet Commander, we're approaching the outer edge of their defenses," Lieutenant Jordan's voice rang out, pulling Samantha from her thoughts. Samantha straightened, her fingers tapping the edge of her console. "Acknowledged. Prepare the fleet for Phase 1 of the assault. We breach their shields, then we move fast." The Zanari had created an impenetrable defense perimeter around their planet, dense shields that would render conventional weapons useless. Samantha's plan was simple, though dangerous. The fleet would deploy a newly designed series of energy disruptors capable of weakening the alien shields long enough to punch through and open a pathway to the planet's surface. But if the Zanari detected the attack too early, the entire fleet could be annihilated. "Disruptors online," Lieutenant Jordan confirmed, his voice tinged with the same mixture of focus and anxiety that Samantha felt. "Ready when you are, Commander." Samantha's gaze flicked to the screen, where the first ripples of energy distortion began to form along the outer perimeter of the Zanari shields. It was a delicate operation, requiring perfect synchronization between the fleet ships and their firepower. One misstep, and the entire mission could fail before it even began. "Deploy the disruptors," Samantha ordered, her voice cold and steady. "Give them everything we've got." The moment the words left her mouth, a pulse of blue light streaked from the fleet's lead ships, striking the shimmering energy shield that enveloped the Zanari stronghold. The shield flickered, momentarily weakening under the intensity of the attack. It was enough, just enough, for the first wave of warships to launch through the breach. For a few moments, it seemed as though the strategy might work. The fleet advanced, each ship punching through the weakened shield with precision. But then, without warning, The Zanari retaliated. Massive turrets on the surface of the planet activated, firing blasts of intense, concentrated energy that collided with Earth's fleet like lightning. A nearby ship erupted into a ball of flame as the enemy fire struck it dead center. Samantha's stomach lurched as the explosion rattled the command bridge. "Commander," Lieutenant Jordan shouted, "we've lost one ship, engines are down. We can't maintain this pace." Samantha's eyes narrowed, her pulse quickening. They had anticipated the Zanari would strike back, but this was far more aggressive than she'd anticipated. "Push forward," she growled. "We break through. We can't stop now." The fleet surged forward, weaving through waves of alien fire. It felt like a desperate race against time, each second bringing them closer to either success or catastrophic failure. More ships fell, their hulls pierced by Zanari laser blasts, but the remaining ships pressed on, determined to reach their target. The disruptors continued to fire, creating a fragile path through the alien defenses. It wasn't long before the fleet's lead ship, a massive vessel dubbed the Vanguard, reached the edge of the Zanari planet's atmosphere. The moment they crossed that boundary, the battle would intensify. Everything they'd fought for would hang in the balance. "This is it," Samantha murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Suddenly, the communication line crackled to life, a harsh voice cutting through the static. "You cannot win, humans. You will fall. Your fleet is nothing but a fleeting shadow before the power of the Zanari." Samantha clenched her jaw. The voice came from the Zanari general, the same one who had mocked humanity before, the one who had kidnapped Ethan. His arrogance was palpable, but Samantha wasn't about to let his threat stop her. They had already come too far. "We're not going anywhere," she responded, her voice firm. "And we're taking the child back." As the fleet reached the upper atmosphere of the Zanari planet, the battle turned into a chaotic frenzy. Massive explosions lit up the sky as Earth ships collided with the Zanari defenses. Ships fell, weapons fired, and the sound of battle raged around them. But Samantha's eyes remained fixed on the target ahead, the surface of the Zanari planet, where their final objective lay. The fleet was pushing forward, breaking through the final line of defense. The mission was far from over, but for the first time since the fleet had entered hyperspace, Samantha felt a sliver of hope. The tide was shifting. They were about to reach the stronghold. They were about to rescue the child. But what awaited them on the surface was unknown, and the real fight was just beginning. "If you think you've won, you've made the first mistake." The alien general's voice boomed over the comms, sharp and laced with disdain. "You are playing at a game you do not understand. And now, you will face the consequences." Commander Samantha Hayes clenched her fists, staring out over the command bridge. The fleet had successfully breached the Zanari's outer defenses, but they hadn't anticipated the full force of what awaited them. As the warships advanced toward the surface, the real battle began, and it was unlike anything they had faced before. The Zanari general, whom Samantha now understood to be more than just a leader, was a figure both feared and respected throughout the galaxy. A creature forged in the fires of countless battles. Its very presence commanded authority. The reputation of the general was as much a part of the Zanari strength as their weaponry. Samantha had heard whispers about the general, a towering figure with a ruthlessness that could bend even the most hardened soldiers to their will. But she had never expected to face them so soon. "We've broken through the outer defenses, but I'm detecting large concentrations of enemy forces on the surface," Lieutenant Jordan reported, his voice tinged with anxiety. "They're preparing for a ground assault." Samantha didn't flinch. She couldn't. The fleet had no choice but to continue forward. The child, Ethan, was still somewhere on the planet's surface, and Earth's only chance at rescuing him lay in the hands of her team. "Deploy the second wave," Samantha ordered firmly. "We're moving in. We need eyes on the ground." Moments later, the fleet began its descent through the planet's thick atmosphere, and the stark, hostile terrain below came into view. The land was barren and dark, scarred by countless years of war. Jagged cliffs and blackened plains stretched endlessly, illuminated only by the occasional strike of energy blasts lighting up the horizon. The general's forces were already waiting, their advanced weaponry trained on Earth ships. The Vanguard, the fleet's lead warship, shuddered as it entered the atmosphere. Samantha's heart pounded as the ship descended lower, deeper into the alien stronghold's heart. But it wasn't just the brutal terrain that chilled her. It was the growing sense of something watching them, something that knew the true cost of failure. "Prepare for landing," Samantha barked, though her voice barely carried above the roar of the ship's engines. The moment they touched down, Earth soldiers would be in enemy territory, facing a ruthless alien army unlike any they had ever encountered. The Vanguard's landing ramp lowered with a heavy hiss, revealing a bleak and dangerous battlefield. The soldiers, clad in their sleek, combat-ready armor, stormed out, weapons raised, scanning their surroundings. The area was eerily quiet, too quiet, considering the size of the enemy force. The team advanced cautiously, the ground beneath them shaking with the tremors of distant explosions. Samantha's thoughts drifted to the child again. Ethan was out there, somewhere, in the heart of this nightmare. Suddenly, a low growl echoed across the barren landscape. The hairs on the back of Samantha's neck stood on end as a figure emerged from the shadows. It was massive, towering over the soldiers as it stepped into the dim light. The alien general, clad in dark, battle-worn armor, appeared before them, its glowing eyes narrowing as it assessed the advancing Earth forces. It was the Zanari general in the flesh. The being was a formidable sight. Its body was a blend of muscle and alien technology, a perfect weapon honed through centuries of war. Standing well over 7 feet tall, its skin was a rough, stone gray, and the armor it wore seemed to ripple with energy, as if it were alive. The general's face was a mask of cold, calculating intelligence, framed by sharp features and an expression that exuded pure menace. For a brief moment, the battlefield seemed to pause. The soldiers halted, instinctively sensing the immense power this being possessed. "This is the end of your journey, humans," the general said, its voice booming with both authority and disdain. "You thought you could just waltz in and take what you wanted? You were wrong." Samantha stood tall, her chin raised in defiance. She wasn't intimidated. She couldn't afford to be. The success of this mission depended on her ability to hold the line, to show her soldiers that fear was the enemy's weapon, not theirs. "We didn't come here to negotiate," Samantha replied, her voice cutting through the oppressive air like a knife. "We came for our people, and we will leave with them." The general's laugh was low and menacing. "Your people? This child is no mere prize. You don't understand what you've set in motion. Do you think the child is simply a hostage? He is the key to something far greater." Samantha's heart skipped a beat, and for the first time, uncertainty crept into her mind. The child, Ethan, wasn't just a victim. He was something far more important to the Zanari. But what was it? What power did this child hold that could make a galactic empire go to war? Before she could react, the general raised its arm, signaling its forces to attack. The ground trembled as Zanari warriors poured from the shadows, their weapons trained on the Earth soldiers. The fight had begun in earnest, and Samantha's heart raced as she realized just how high the stakes had become. The child's fate, the fate of humanity, it all rested on this moment. As her soldiers engaged in combat, Samantha's mind stayed fixed on one thing: finding Ethan before it was too late. "You think you're here to save a child?" Asterisk, asterisk, the Zanari general's voice cut through the chaos of battle. "But what you don't realize is that you're only here to witness the beginning of the end." Commander Samantha Hayes froze, the weight of the words hitting her like a physical blow. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned the battlefield. Zanari warriors clashed with Earth soldiers, explosions lighting up the once barren ground. The stakes had never been higher. But the general's words echoed in her mind, a warning she wasn't sure she was ready to understand. The mission had been straightforward: get to the child, rescue him, and bring him back home. Yet, with every step forward, it felt like they were wading deeper into a web of secrets that could destroy everything they had worked for. Samantha gripped her weapon tightly, pushing the unsettling feeling to the back of her mind. The battle was far from over, and they were still making progress. The alien general had been relentless, but Earth's fleet had managed to hold its ground. There's one thing, however, that kept her from focusing entirely on the task at hand. The general's cryptic warning about Ethan. The child, Ethan, had been taken from Earth not just because of his status as a human, but because of something far more profound. The more Samantha learned, the more she realized that this wasn't just an ordinary rescue mission. It was a race against time to uncover a truth that could change the course of the galaxy. A soldier approached Samantha, urgency in his step. "Commander, we've located the facility where the child is being held. It's heavily guarded. Reinforcements will be here soon. But we have a chance to extract him now, if we move quickly." "Then move," Samantha ordered. Her voice was calm, despite the tension gnawing at her. She knew they couldn't waste another second. She had to get to Ethan, before it was too late. The group of soldiers followed her, cutting through the chaos, their boots pounding the cracked earth. They made their way toward the dark, fortress-like building that stood at the heart of the alien stronghold. The walls were made of a material unlike anything Samantha had ever seen, shimmering and shifting, as if alive. This was no ordinary structure. It felt wrong, unnatural. As they entered the facility, the air grew colder, the walls pulsating with a strange energy. Samantha's instincts screamed at her to move faster. The silence here was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of alien technology. They turned a corner, and there, in a dimly lit chamber, was Ethan. The child was not bound or trapped in any conventional sense. He stood in the center of the room, his small frame bathed in a soft, blue glow that emanated from the floor beneath him. His eyes were wide open, but there was no fear, only an unsettling calm. It was as if he was waiting for them. "Ethan," Samantha called, rushing toward him. But the moment she took a step forward, the chamber's energy flared to life, a force field springing up between them, cutting her off. She stumbled back, the shock of the sudden barrier rattling her. Ethan didn't move. His gaze remained fixed on her, and for a brief, terrifying moment, Samantha saw something she hadn't expected. The faintest flicker of recognition, of understanding in his eyes. Something beyond the fear of a child trapped in an alien stronghold. It was as if he knew something that she didn't. Before she could speak, the voice of the Zanari general echoed from the shadows. "You should not have come here, Commander. The child is no longer what you think. He is not merely human. He is the key to our victory." Samantha's heart stopped. The key to their victory. The general's words sliced through the air with terrifying finality. "I don't understand," Samantha said, her voice tight with a mixture of confusion and fury. "What is he to you? Why have you taken him?" The general's laugh resonated with cold amusement. "The child is a vessel, Commander. A vessel for a power that can reshape the fabric of this galaxy. He is the last remnant of a long-forgotten civilization. The civilization that once held dominion over all the stars. The Zanari need him to unlock that power, to reawaken it. And you have unknowingly led him right to us." Samantha's mind reeled as the general's words sank in. Ethan was no ordinary child. He was somehow tied to an ancient power, a force that had once ruled the stars, and now the Zanari intended to harness it. But why had they not known this before? Why hadn't they sensed the danger? As the general's words echoed in the chamber, Samantha realized the truth with chilling clarity. This wasn't just a battle for the life of one child. It was a battle for control of an unimaginable power. Ethan, though small and seemingly helpless, was the key to unlocking this power, a power that could tip the balance of the entire galaxy. And if the Zanari succeeded in harnessing it, Earth would be nothing more than a footnote in the annals of history. In that moment, Samantha knew there was no turning back. The fight had just escalated to something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. She turned to her team, her voice steady but resolute. "We need to get him out of here, now. We don't know what we're dealing with, but we're not letting them take him." The team moved forward again, but Samantha's mind raced. The mission was no longer just about rescuing a child. It was about saving humanity itself from an ancient power that had the potential to reshape the galaxy. and she would stop at nothing to protect Ethan and Earth. You may have reached this far, asterisk asterisk, the Zanari general's voice echoed through the chamber. But this is where your victory ends. The words hit Samantha Hayes like a slap in the face. She had come so far. Her fleet had pushed through the impossible. And now, the fight was more than just about saving a child. It was about survival. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned the vast, darkened chamber ahead. They had entered the heart of the Zanari stronghold, a massive complex of alien architecture and untold technology. It felt as though the walls themselves were alive, pulsing with an otherworldly energy, reacting to their presence. They were too close now, and failure wasn't an option. Ethan, still standing in the center of the glowing chamber, was at the heart of the battle, the key to a power humanity could barely comprehend. The general's words kept swirling in Samantha's mind. The child is the last remnant of a civilization that once ruled the stars. The stakes had never been higher. Samantha's fingers tightened around the hilt of her weapon. Her team, the elite soldiers of Earth's fleet, stood with her, ready to engage. They had fought tooth and nail to get here, losing comrades and friends along the way. And now they were within striking distance of the Zanari general, the one who had orchestrated everything, the one who had stolen Ethan from Earth. It was time to finish this. The general's warriors, armed with deadly energy weapons, flanked the chamber. But this time, Samantha wasn't worried. The battle had taught her one undeniable truth. The Zanari might have superior technology, but humanity had something far more dangerous, the will to fight for their own. The general appeared before them, its massive form clad in dark armor that hummed with power. Its glowing eyes locked on Samantha, and for a moment, the world seemed to freeze. Every inch of her being told her to be cautious, to back down, but she couldn't. This had gone beyond a mere rescue mission. It was a war now, a war for Earth's future. "You are too late," the general sneered, its voice dripping with contempt. "The power of the stars is within our reach. Soon, your world will burn beneath the weight of a forgotten empire. You will bow before us." Samantha stood tall, meeting the general's gaze without flinching. "I don't bow to anyone," she said, her voice unwavering. "You've made one mistake. You've underestimated us." With a signal, the soldiers of Earth moved forward, charging at the Zanari forces. The battle erupted once more, but this time, the Earth soldiers fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal. The air was thick with the sound of blasters firing, shields shattering, and the roar of combat. Samantha moved swiftly through the chaos, her eyes locked on the general. The Zanari's weaponry was powerful, their tactics ruthless, but the commander was relentless. She had to end this, and she had to end it now. "Ethan," Samantha called, her voice rising above the din of battle. The child, who had remained eerily calm amid the violence, turned slowly, his wide eyes meeting hers. Something in his expression shifted. For a moment, there was a flicker of understanding, of connection, a glimpse of the boy he once was. The general's voice snarled from behind her. "You cannot protect him. You don't understand. He is not the innocent child you think he is. He is the vessel for a power beyond your comprehension." Samantha's heart raced. What did the general mean? What did Ethan truly hold within him? But there was no time to dwell on that. The general surged forward, and the battle between them began. The general was a force of nature, its movements fluid and lethal. Samantha's soldiers fought fiercely, but the alien strength and advanced weaponry gave it an edge. Samantha found herself locked in a brutal one-on-one fight with the general, each blow feeling like a thunderstrike. Her combat skills were honed to perfection, but she knew she was no match for the sheer power of this being. Yet, as she fought, something inside her shifted. The words of her soldiers, the faces of the people she fought for, asterisk asterisk, humanity's strength asterisk asterisk, fueled her resolve. She couldn't back down. Not now. As they clashed, the ground beneath them trembled. The chamber's energy fields began to pulse, reacting to the intense battle, as if the entire structure was alive, feeding on the conflict. In a moment of desperation, Samantha saw her opening. With a swift, calculated move, she disarmed the general, sending its weapon skittering across the floor. But the fight was far from over. The general's rage only intensified, and its eyes glowed brighter. "Fool," the general roared. "You cannot win this fight. You cannot stop the reawakening of the power of the stars." Samantha's eyes flicked to Ethan, who stood near the center of the chamber, his eyes locked onto hers. She knew what she had to do. "Ethan," she shouted again, her voice reaching the boy through the chaos. "You're stronger than this. You can control it." The child's expression shifted again, his small frame tense. The soft blue light surrounding him began to pulse with increasing intensity, as if responding to his inner turmoil. The general saw it, too, and its eyes widened in realization. "No," it hissed. "It's too late." With a sudden, blinding surge of energy, the entire chamber erupted in a flash of light. Samantha shielded her eyes, feeling the power of the blast coursing through her. But it wasn't the Zanari general's power. It was Ethan's. The child's hidden potential had been unlocked, and with it, the unimaginable force of a forgotten civilization surged through him. The general's form flickered, then collapsed, disintegrating under the weight of the energy. For a moment, there was silence. The battlefield stilled. Samantha opened her eyes, blinking against the aftershocks of the power. Ethan stood before her, his eyes filled with confusion, but also a strange sense of clarity. "You did it," Samantha whispered, her heart pounding. The child had freed them from the grip of the Zanari, but at what cost? With the general defeated and the energy of the chamber dissipating, Samantha knew this battle was over. But it was only the beginning. There would be more questions, more challenges, and more enemies. Earth had won, for now, and the galaxy would never forget the human force that had taken on an ancient empire and emerged victorious.